bloop, a bloop. Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, we've got a show for you today. We are going to be talking about the U.S.'s place on the world stage. Should the U.S. be spending money on other countries? Should we have gutted USAID? What about military intervention when it comes, or funding other countries' militaries for intervention, such as Ukraine? We got it all. We're going to talk about it all. It's a wide variety of stuff. Welcome, and I got some great guests to talk about it. First up is Ace. Ace, tell people who you are, what you do, and give us your opening thoughts on this. Let's get it going.
Yeah. So I'm Ace. My real name's Tarek. I'm currently a college student studying political science and international relations. Plan on going to hopefully law school soon. I work in a mortgage brokerage, and I guess I do college speech and debate. I'm not really big on social media or anything like that. It's more just it's summer and I don't have any tournaments to be competing in, so this sounded like a lot of fun.
Okay. Why should we? What's your stance here?
Yeah, I think we should definitely increase aid by a large amount. Later on, when we, kind of get into it, I'll talk about some action steps, ways I think we can do that, and not only like the soft power gains we would get from that, but I think also economic returns the U.S. would get from that.
Okay, we'll get into it as we go. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Admiral Gibbs, no stranger to the show. What's up?
All right, good to be here. I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me over as Admiral Gibbs. I got two minds of this. Two minds. One mind, I like foreign aid when it gets results. If I can see foreign aid that's getting tangible results, I'm a fan of it, right? However, I am not sold that the current style of foreign aid has done that. I think it's been a total waste of time, and it offends me, actually. I'm actually offended by the egregious waste of tax dollars that are going to funding stupid things like learning about butchers' languages in France. And I don't know, I'm sure somebody will mention this for a hot button little topic here. Operas in New Guinea or wherever. I don't know. Anyway, long story short, I don't want the funding going that. I want it to go in to get results. Otherwise, let's gut that shit.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, also someone who's been on my show quite a bit recently, and we appreciate her for it, Enemy Charlie.
Hello, I'm Enemy Charlie. I stream on Twitch. I specialize in fantasy literature, not politics, but I like to share my opinion anyway, because why not? My stance is that, programs like USAID are integral to not only America, but across the globe. For the American end, of course, to maintain our soft power, which is beneficial for us. We get good trade deals. We get access to sick resources when we need them. And we, remain the most powerful country in the world. And then on a global scale, it is also just good to ensure that people across the globe have access to medical treatment, which is what a lot of U.S. foreign aid is, such as like HIV clinics in the Congo. That's good. We like that. I like it when people live.
Okay. Well, thank you for that brave stance. We're going to get into it as we go.
Thank
People
you.
living. Well, I mean,
Good.
Look, that's a hill to die on if I ever heard one. Last but certainly not least, he's been around the community. I don't know if you've actually been on my show before, but we appreciate you being here. Hash
Well,
God
thank you.
of Few Fools. Go ahead, tell people who you are, what you do, and what are your thoughts?
I'm a 2016 Bernie Sanders supporter that kind of got a little bit disillusioned with what happened in that election and kind of just been slowly drifting to the right. And I'm hoping that the left will take this loss and reform to become something worth voting for. But I'm just here to share my opinions on USAID, and I'm not necessarily against it as a whole. Like I'm for buying wells in Africa, but I'm not for throwing money down holes in wells in Africa. Very much like Admiral Gibbs. It very much is a little bit offensive to me, just the amount of corruption, bloat, and waste that it seems that our aid is like causing and funding across the globe, and I see it coming back to bite us in countless situations. From I guess it's technically lend-lease, so it's not aid, and so maybe it kind of goes against my later point, but the whole funding Russia in World War II, and then countless other countries that then turned against us, from South Vietnam to Afghanistan, and even ISIS was funded by Obama previous to becoming ISIS, because they was trying to topple the Syrian regime. So like sometimes the funding is good, but sometimes it seems like it can turn around and bite us in the butt. So that's my general thoughts on the matter.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and we'll get into it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so I guess the first question is, because everyone seems to be okay with some aid, right? Some form of spending. You guys, both Gibbs and Fool, you mentioned abuse, waste, etc. Gibbs, give us some examples, and then maybe we could start there. Oh, you're muted if you're talking. Uh-oh.
Oh.
They
Well,
silenced
can't-
him.
I know.
Yeah.
1 second. Oh,
Okay.
we're back?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back.
All right, yeah, I'm sorry. It was the man. They got me. No, I'll give you two examples. I also want to address one thing that you said when you opened this wick that we didn't actually, I don't think any of us really touched on, which was spending, the military spending as well. I want to give an example of a country that's getting results from getting USAID. And it's interesting that Charlie mentioned the Congo, because we are backing Rwanda, because Rwanda is taking over portions of the Congo right now, and they are selling the rare earth minerals there to Western powers, right? They've also taken over a lot of the policing duties in Africa from France. They're the largest provider of troops of any African nation to the UN, and they are getting the funding, and they are getting drastic results. Ever since the 1991 genocide, the president's coming to power, they've made drastic changes. Quality of life's improved. They've gone and taken over these contracts. That is getting results with foreign aid. Like, I think countries like that should be rewarded. Now, whether or not we agree with the Congo's policy of like eating their larger neighbor for the minerals, that's one thing. Congo's backed by Russia. We could get in the whole geopolitical conversation whether or not that's good for us. That's a whole other thing. But I think Rwanda is a golden example of what getting results looks like. What getting results doesn't look like is, I don't know, anything we've done in the rest of Africa, where we've given them money and, we're going to build fisheries in Nigeria, and then spend 2.2 million on them, and all of a sudden, Boko Haram comes in 3 years later and destroys them. That's not getting results. I get it's bad, but I feel like we should be able to look at things, assess them over a period of time, and go, okay, let's get rid of this. But instead, we're like, hey, USAID's got all this funding, we have to spend it on this. Trump doesn't think this is getting this done, let's gut it. And they're going, oh no, Lordy, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Responses?
Okay. Yeah, so there was a lot there. You gave an example of where you thought aid was good, which I think is one thing I want to make clear is that we're talking about whether or not we should increase aid. And the critiques on aid I've heard is more about the style of aid. So you talked about the current style of aid, but I didn't actually hear an argument against increasing aid. If we want to talk about changing how we give out aid, that's a conversation we can definitely have. When you talk about Africa, especially, like, nothing being really very effective, I don't think that's true, considering when you look at things like PEPFAR, which was the Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS, what it did is reduce HIV across Africa massively, and in 2015, we saw that those receiving PEPFAR support had a 68% approval rating of the United States versus those that didn't had a 46% approval rating of the United States. And I think that's the big point here. When we talk about these programs that we deem as not needed, as not necessary, in reality, what that does is increase U.S. soft power in the region. And I think one of the reasons we see that failing in Africa is because China's doing it better than we are. We can look at the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative and see that I believe it's 54 countries in Africa, 53 countries in Africa support Beijing over Taipei. Africa only votes with the United States 29% of the time in the UN. We can see the port in Greece, for example, Chinese port in Greece, pushing Greece's opinion in the United Nations towards China's humanitarian record. Ultimately, the reason Africa isn't working is because China's building them better ports, China's giving them more money, China's giving them semi-concessional loan rates, and as such, we see Chinese soft power increasing in the region.
But you're really making my point for me, right? That's my point. China is doing it better. What is China doing? What are all the things you listed? Ports. They're building railroads. They're building electric lines. Yeah, these are laudable goals.
Exactly.
However, what we're wasting our money on is, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek programs like the CIA doing ops, doing, hey, we're going to use this to hide our money, and we're going to have some kind of dark op where we do a play in a weird country, or we're going to do, I don't know, we're going to do this bullshit like build the fisheries that get destroyed 2 years later, versus China's like, let's build a port here, let's get people jobs, let's build infrastructure, let's be this on. That's the point I'm making.
I haven't heard an argument to decrease aid. I've heard you talk about redirecting aid.
Okay, fine. I'll make the argument. If my money's to be wasted, let's fucking cut the funding. I'd rather no money go overseas for, I don't know, AIDS research, and all the money stay here and fix the homelessness problem. How about that? Let's just give them no money and we fix problems here. That would be a better argument. That I feel like.
Hold on. One at a time. We're all kind of talking over each other. I want to get I want to get the mic. Finish your point, Ace, and then want to give the mic to Charlie. Then I want to get Tash in here and see what Tash has to say.
So, when we talk about aid, like, going back towards the United States, currently percent of GDP it's 0.24, which according to the Organization on Economic Cooperation and Development, goal should be 0.7, which currently Norway, Luxembourg, Sweden, Germany, and Denmark all reach. So ultimately, the United States can do both. This isn't something where aid is bankrupting us so we can't deal with the homeless population. Honestly, it's a false dichotomy. We can do both. We can fix homelessness in the United States and still beat China out in soft power. And you've argued for my point this entire time. We should give out semi-concessional loans. We should give money to African nations. And if you don't want it to go towards certain social programs, that's one thing. But we should be giving them more money to build highways, to build stores, to build power plants. So then they buy American goods, because every dollar invested in USAID gets us $8 back. So ultimately, we should increase more money. If you want that to be on highways, I agree. Sure, we should definitely build highways. Do I think those social programs are absolutely useless? Not at all. I think they're still useful to some degree.
I guess I wanted to inquire. We have cut, funding to USAID. Has that money come back to the American people, the money that we saved? Has that gone to expanding social programs in the US? Because it seems like we are actually cutting social programs, which is awful for the American people. So I guess out of curiosity, like what tangible benefits are the American people receiving from cutting to USAID?
Why haven't we allocated that money? Is there any particular reason why?
I'm asking you.
Well,
you're saying that we haven't allocated that money to
why is that? Yeah, no, it's not, man. Why is that? Do you know?
I don't.
It's because I forget the specific bill or whatever. I'm sure Wick will know it off the top of his head when I mention it. Is we have to spend all the money allocated for these things in that industry. So even if we gutted USAID entirely and I wanted to take every penny and just give $1 million to every hobo, I couldn't do it because it's not going to be given to the for the cause. It's not going to be going to the USAID things. So we can't do that. And you know who's stopping us from doing that? The Dems. The Dems are crying about doing that. So if you really wanted that change, you would vote out the Dems and vote the Republicans in who want to gut this organization.
Have Republicans proposed bills that would increase spending in social programs? Have we seen bills like that? Because recently it seems like there's actually a lot of bills that are cutting.
Because y'all are stopping it. Well, yeah, because we want to stop wasting the dollars.
There's not. There hasn't. What?
Yeah, we're wasting all our dollars all over the place. We need to reassess. Cut the bloat.
Real quick, can I say you're talking about wasting money. The only example we were given was an opera, which you're talking about, I believe, the Columbia Opera, which that wasn't USAID. That was $25,000 from the State Department, and then $22,000 from the nonprofit from the State Department, not USAID.
You agree that the State Department also engages in soft power?
Yeah. But I'm saying they should continue to do that because every time we do that, we increase the outlook of the United States across the world.
That's the outlook you think we want? That's the outlook that you think is good
because that's what they want. It doesn't
funding
matter,
operas.
But it doesn't matter what we want. What matters is what those countries want that money to spend that money on, because that's what they like to spend their money on. And ultimately,
I agree with you.
You mean our money? You mean our money? You mean our money?
It's money we're giving them, so they like us.
Hold on. Let's get Tash in here. Tash is trying his best. Tash, you have that microphone. Go ahead.
I feel like a lot of the money is being spent in other countries on things that they don't want, and I think that's the biggest issue. I think like if you were like I'm much more in favor of not just giving the money away, although we do that plenty, just through like other like aid organizations. But like I'm much more in favor, like you're saying, of like lending and like giving to like entrepreneurs and actual like job creators. Because like with some of the issues I see, like especially with giving money to Africa, is that we're doing the whole give a man a fish and feed him for a day, teach him to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. We're just giving them aid, and a lot of the times that's like flooding the market with food that then the local farmers are not able to continue to compete with because it's free. So
Yeah.
like I don't know. I feel like a lot of the ways that we're giving aid is like not a great impact on some of the places that we're giving the aid to, and it's a lot of the time for like selfish reason. Like we're giving all this money to like the Congo and we're taking all their cobalt or something, and it's like yay, they're so happy that we're helping them while they're taking all the natural resources.
Yeah.
And so
So we
yeah,
talk.
it has the little smiley face on it, but there's much more sinister intentions behind it, and the people that live there on a daily basis see that.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I,
it's U.S. imperialism, but that
yeah.
is how we've remained the global superpower.
And the fear is, I understand what you're saying. I totally get if we could cut out U.S. aid and all of a sudden all these countries became stable, sure, that'd be great. But that's not the case. They are dependent on aid, a lot of these countries, and they're going to get that aid from China. They're going to get that aid from Russia. So by us cutting aid to these other countries, what we're doing is opening the floodgate, opening a vacuum for China to come in and then push Chinese values, push Chinese items onto these people to buy, push Chinese traditions, those types of things. Which, if we're pro America, which I kind of hope we all are, then we want America to be dominant, not only economically, but culturally. And we do that by doing things like operas. We do that by spending money on things that maybe aren't food. And when we talk about whether or not they want it or not, I like to talk. My mom's from Bosnia, so I have a pretty good connection with that one and their kind of outlook on the United States. 80% of Bosniaks have a favorable opinion on the United States, compared to only 36% of Serbians in pretty much the same region. And this was by 1990. Since 1995, we've invested $2 billion. That's it, $2 billion, and we've
I
bought like
re-
an entire population.
I reject this like on its head.
Why?
Like all right, this is the idea that this is the reason Pax Americana is happening is laughable. The reason why a Pax Americana is happening is because we got 5 fucking super carrier groups walking around all the fucking places. Maybe we even have more going around
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, if you fuck up, we'll put an aircraft carrier on the coast of your place that's got more firepower than your entire country." It's
But we
not
haven't.
because we do it all the time. We do it all the time. It literally we just did it to Yemen. So like we literally just had the largest bombing
Yeah.
since World War II. This idea that Pax Americana is only going to continue because we are funding operas is ludicrous. It's going to continue because we are the world dominant superpower. We let these countries exist at our will. That's the reason why they exist, right? So when we're sitting here going, "Oh, we need to go in there and coddle them and pamper them and waste American taxpayer dollars for no results," whenever we can be spending that money here at home, it's
Hey,
just
so
ludicrous.
Gibbs,
Like homelessness is going to continue high
can
under
I
Biden, for
propose a
example.
scenario to you?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's say the U.S. is not a powerful nation, and maybe Canada is our all-powerful benefactor, and we get tons of, situation one, we get tons of food, medical clinics, just basically, I don't know, funding to the arts from Canada. Uh, Generally, as an American, I would be like, well, I love Canada. That's great. I love to have all of these things. Versus if Canada says, hey, I know you're living in a shithole, but if you piss us off a little bit, we are going to blow you up and kill you. Uh, like I don't like which would you, Admiral Gibbs, which would ensure your loyalty to Canada? The threat of your death, your imminent death, or food gifts?
Probably the threat of fucking getting bombed to high hell. I'm not gonna fucking be like, oh yeah, they sent me canned goods and our Canadian art, and versus, oh shit, if I fucking fuck with Canada, they're gonna drone strike my house. I think that I'm gonna be a much more loyal to the new AI overlords that come from
Do
Canada
you
or
think
whatever.
your sons
Like,
and grandsons are going to want to be loyal to Canada, or are they going to, I don't know, form like armed guerrilla groups to
well,
start
maybe.
killing Canadians? Because like, I would probably do that.
I mean,
You know?
maybe. I mean, that could happen. I that's one argument. However, a lot of people are arguing on the Republican side that we should just get the fuck out there and let these people deal with their own problems. Half the problems is because we're over there in the first place. Like, if these guys
we
want to kill
start a
each
lot of
other,
these problems.
if these people want to kill each other, let them kill each other. Why are we going to go in there and like play peacemaker every time? Why are we going to spend millions of dollars rebuilding this place only for 10 years later for them to go, hey, you know what would be cool? Death to America. Like, this happens all the time. All the time it happens.
Yeah.
Can you name one successful Arab Spring uprising?
I feel like we're getting really off track here. I want to.
No, we're not getting off track.
Wait,
Because we waste this.
no,
No, it's not off track. Because this is all where we're spending all this money.
Before we start talking about Arab Spring, let's talk about like some of the original ideas that were brought up. Which, first off, you said it's not successful. I'd like to point out that 11 of America's 15 top trading partners are former recipients of U.S. foreign aid. There was a time during the Marshall Plan where 3% of our 3% of our GDP was spent on building back Western Europe that has now become major allies to us. And if this idea that the idea that other countries are afraid of us, so they're not going to fuck with us. Africa votes against us 70% of the time. They vote with China way more because of the fact that China is giving them these things. We saw military strength fail in Afghanistan. We saw military strength fail across the Middle East. The United States has been trying to do this big military thing across the world, and it's failed time and time and time again. And the reason China's winning, even though they only spend 60% of what the US does on their military, is because they do so through the $1 trillion Belt and Road Initiative that has built things across Africa, across the Middle East.
Yeah, but they're building things. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Let's build things. Let's build things.
How much money wasn't even going towards anything? It was going to NGOs.
Speaking of money and people giving WIC money, $5 from Audacity, right? Because I will take the WIC aid that you guys send. So $5 from Audacity to say capitalist export of American culture does more for soft power than the government could ever do directly. A Domino's opened in Estonia. The line was 4 miles.
That's a good point.
Thank you for the $5.
That's absolutely
4
correct,
miles for Domino's?
According to the super chat, so believe it or not.
Well, have y'all seen the
Do you remember
Starbucks
when they
and
opened McDonald's in Soviet Russia and the lines were like crazy, even though the price for a McDonald's meal was like an entire week's wage? Like, people love American shit.
Well, or you could look at Starbucks doing the same thing. In Japan, they were told that nobody drinks coffee, so they made a cartoon and they put coffee, like tie-in merch that had coffee flavored whatever. And then after about 10 years, or 20 years, I don't know, they finally just opened up one of the biggest Starbucks in the world. I think capitalism absolutely fulfills this role much, much better than any fucking foreign power, foreign aid, soft power kind of thing does.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
But we don't want foreign countries like allegiancy to go to Coca-Cola. We want their allegiancy to be to the United States. The United States.
Coca-Cola's America.
They like America because it brings them Coca-Cola. What the heck? That's literally like the whole point behind bringing them Coca-Cola to begin with.
Yeah, what I'm saying is when we increase aid, Gibbs, I want to ask you something. So right now, percent of GDP, it's 0.24%, right? The OECD, or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, wants that to be 0.7%. If I agree to get rid of transgender operas, will you agree to help get to that 0.7% so we can build a bunch of power plants and highways across Africa and the Middle East, so maybe we can be culturally and economically dominant in the region?
I mean, I would be open to it. I would be open to that, right? I mean, I'm not going to just say like wholesale, let's say all these countries. I'm going to say maybe this country gets it, that country don't. This country gets it.
So you agree?
Sure, but I am open to it. However, whenever you're going to sit here and say that, how often do we see the money just go to NGOs and then it just disappear and never gets spent on anything?
Usually where it goes.
It's usually where it goes.
Okay, wait. I want to point out. So one big piece of misinformation there, which is this idea that like 20 or 40% of the money goes away. According to the U4 Anti-Corruption Resource Center, they did a study in 2021, the credibility of corruption statistics. That idea that a majority of this money goes away is a zombie statistic. There's no backing for it. There's no proof for it. You can say
Okay,
that, sure.
Ace,
I could say
I
that
have-
if we
I
spend
have
our
a
money on
question
the
for you,
military,
man.
I don't.
this
Yeah,
clear.
but cool. I don't trust that the organization at all. That means nothing to me. I could say the Gibbs Caring Foundation put out a study. I don't
Yeah.
fucking trust these people. I just like
Okay.
Snopes used to be the fact checker website, and now we find out they've been leftist the whole time.
So
Like,
if we're just
I
gonna
don't
say
trust that.
this like we don't trust those statistics, then
No,
where
I
did
mean
that
we're
where did it
fine.
come
Let's. I
from?
mean, if you want to go to the
Then
source, why
where
don't
do
you go to the
we? How do
source?
we get an
Yeah.
understanding of the world if we can't
Well,
like
I'll tell you
agree
how.
on any
We're just not going to
source?
argue
Is it
statistics right
just
now.
vital?
You
It's
just go to the
fine.
base
No,
source.
but
You go to the
wait,
base.
we
No, no,
have
you
to
go to the
argue
base
Well,
source.
hold on, one at a
because
time,
that's
one at a
how
time.
No, we don't.
Well,
We
hold on,
absolutely do not
hold
have
on,
to argue
hold on,
statistics.
hold on,
We can
hold on,
argue
hold on.
ideas.
Everyone, no one can hear you when you're all talking over each other. Let Ace finish his
All right.
point, then I'm going to let Tash
So,
respond, and then we're
the
going to
thing
give it to Gibbs
the
and
thing
then
is,
to Enemy.
the claim was made that the money is being like taken away and wasted away by corruption. I said that the statistic that backs that up isn't true. So I'm not using that. I'm using that statistic in response. Ultimately, what I'm saying is you can say that. You can say the money is being wasted by NGOs, but you can say anything. Once again, I'm giving you proof that it's not. We've given proof when we look at Bosniaks liking the United States, when we saw the support for PEPFAR, when we saw all the benefits the U.S. when we spend U.S. aid, the benefits to U.S. soft power, we can map out. We can look at studies and we can see how that works out. You can say, well, it's getting wasted. If it's getting wasted, then why do 80% of Bosniaks like the United States? Why, if China spending money in Africa is making them vote with them like 70% of the time, how is that getting wasted? If the US spending money on PEPFAR makes them more likely to like us, how is that getting wasted? We see the positive effects of it all the time. And you can't just say it's getting wasted when we see the outcome of it being positive.
Gibbs, I got to be honest. You're kind of
Oh,
getting
I got
wasted
it.
right now.
That's fine. Let me just
see what
spin.
you got.
That's fine. I got plenty here. Let's go with. How about let's talk. Here's a good waste one. Would you agree that I don't know? USAID funding hundreds of thousands of dollars going towards meals that went to ISIS terrorists and Al Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan is wasteful, because I got direct links from that from the Washington Times. We can
Let's get
keep
rid of
going.
it.
Hold on, let Gibbs finish. Hold on, let Gibbs finish. Let Gibbs finish. Gibbs,
Let's
go
get rid of
ahead.
it. Yeah, and this is the other thing. I could go down this list. There's all these times we can
Yeah.
argue about what is specifically waste. $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. Why the fuck are we funding tourism in Egypt? Like, I don't want to spend tourism in Egypt. We can do the gender opera in Colombia. 2.5 for electric vehicles in Vietnam. We can go down the list. This is just from the government website. I can go to the Doge website and pull up more shit. I can go to other websites and pull up different stuff. Listen, this is actually a better point that Tosh is making about talking about ideas. You can sit here and give yours. Hold on, you can in a second. You can give me all the stats,
No, it's my
all these
turn
things
after.
that you wanted. But this is a big one. It's a big one. What are we going to define as waste? What you're sitting here saying, oh, the NGOs didn't waste our money. I'm saying that's absolutely a waste. So, like, it's all subjective in that regard. Like, I don't see results coming from it. This is why when I said the homeless thing, I'm sure the chat went wild and said, oh, yeah, Gibbs wants to fund homelessness cures here in America. Well, I do. I just don't think my homelessness cure is going to be the same as what y'all are thinking is a homelessness cure, right? So, like, it's basically like there's different, like, ideas of programs, and y'all will probably say with my ideas, wasteful. And this is what I'm saying here. All this shit's been wasteful. And Republicans have spoke on that, and that's why Trump got his mandate.
Okay, so can I real quick? I want to say
fine.
some things. You talked about
I'll
fighting
jump in
terrorism in
after.
Egypt. 73% of U.S. adults in a survey said that fighting terrorism should be the top priority of the United States.
Tourism in Egypt.
Oh, tourism. Sorry, I wrong with that. You talked about this waste, these programs that you feeding terrorists or something. You're talking very fast about it. Let's get rid of it. I'm agreeing. The point of this conversation is, should we increase aid? You're saying we should cut it. We can redirect it. Let's take that money that we were spending to feed terrorists or whatever you're saying. Let's build highways in the Middle East. Let's build highways in Africa. Let's build highways in South America and Central America. Let's do that. You're saying cut it. I'm saying redirect it. You still haven't attacked my actual argument at all. You've simply said,
I said the same thing. I'm okay with redirection.
Hold on.
I don't. What do
you gotta let Ace
you
finish. You gotta let Ace finish,
Yep.
and Tash has
Well,
to
yeah,
jump in
I am.
after
I'm just real
and then
quick.
when we
Ace.
talk,
What is different from what I said in my opening? You're saying I didn't attack
because
your argument.
you're saying cut it. I'm saying we shouldn't cut it. We should redirect it. That's the difference we have. We should redirect it and we should increase it to that 0.7%. Not only that, but when we talk about what is it being effective, how is it being effective? For every dollar invested in conflict prevention, according to the Institute for Economic and Peace, we save $16. For every $1 spent on foreign aid, we make $8 back as aid recipient countries develop and buy more American goods. For every $1, the U.S. Trade Development Agency, USTDA, said every time we co-finance project studies overseas, we generate $85 in U.S. exports for every $1 invested. If you're saying let's stop funding stupid shit, sure, I agree. Let's not fund it. but we should still increase aid. This has not done anything to attack my actual point. You said how US is spending aid right now is bad. Sure, I can agree. There are some stuff that we should get rid of and we shouldn't spend that way. But it doesn't mean we should cut it. We should increase the amount of aid we spend and redirect it towards programs that does help US soft power,
Okay.
like we saw during the Marshall Plan.
Okay, $5 from Audacity. Say redirectionist gang, stay winning. Thank you for the $5. Redirect your money to me. I would love it. Tosh, go ahead. Mike's yours, and then I see you, Charlie, and we'll give it to
Yeah,
Charlie.
so the main reason why I'm not really wanting to argue statistics is because we have this limited time. If we had it was a much longer time scale, then I'd be willing to jump into the numbers with you. But there's also just damn lies in statistics, and it's really easy to manipulate statistics to kind of push what you're wanting. And like kind of back on the whole give a man a fish and feed him for a day thing. This was true 13 years ago, and I imagine it's still true, but I don't think there's any country that has achieved economic development and reduced policy through aid. So
South
like
Korea.
you're not only through that, they've done that just like Japan has, and Taiwan through like being entrepreneurial and having their own economies that pop up, like their tech economies.
So
And
West, we
I
can,
feel like
I
that going the route of allowing them to jump into, obviously, like Gibbs was saying, a free trade into where they're able to build themselves up through like loans and that kind of stuff is much more beneficial than just giving handouts to everyone like it seems like we're doing. And Gibbs is right that we would be just reducing a fuck ton of the aid that we're just throwing into wells all over the world, and actually nailing down where this money is going, what it's being spent on, and what's coming back from that, which I feel like is what Doge is doing. And if you come to my Twitter page, and what Elon has recently said about Trump's big beautiful bill is that it doesn't include and codify a lot of the cuts that Doge has tried to make in the budget that would allow for more like public sector spending on different various things that
Okay.
everyone in this call would benefit from.
Sure, $5
So-
from Deej Nuts before Charlie goes. Thank you for the $5, Deej Nuts. To say, for the love of God, can the panelists please differentiate between strategic investment and aid? Thank you for the $5. Charlie, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily playing devil's advocate. I would like to make it clear because it seems like people in my chat have been a little bit freaked out by my talking points. I am firmly against American imperialism. But that is a bit beyond this panel. I can't really argue death to America right now. So this.
Whoops. Well, hey, if you want to
the
argue
stance-
that, we can set up a show, okay?
Well, we could.
I'll promise you. Well, another day, okay? That's another topic.
But
Go
my
ahead.
point is, Tosh, honestly, based on the points that Ace is making, the fact that we benefit economically a shit ton from this foreign aid that we give out and these strategic investments or whatever people are saying.
That's
Does
just
it
due to the
matter if
corruption.
does it matter if these countries succeed? In fact, it might be to our benefit if they don't. And I think that we actually go to great lengths at times to ensure that countries, have a small amount of very, very rich people and a large amount of very, very poor people. We've done this across Latin America. So again, at the end of the day, if I was the devil from the Bible, I would be saying, does it matter if these countries succeed if Americans benefit? Ultimately, if we are winning, which we seem to be winning.
We
We're kinda
are,
losing
but
the
at what
time.
point does it turn around? At what point do these countries decide that they've had enough being like pushed around and taken advantage of by us, and that they
Well, it's not the
turn coat
government's.
and decide that they're not necessarily liking how the U.S. government has been treating their country and keeping them in poverty perpetually?
Can I say, you keep saying that they're going to dislike it and that they're going to dislike the United States abusing them. You're talking about my family in Bosnia, and they don't dislike the United States. 80% of Bosniaks support the United States because of the foreign aid we've given them, which, again, was $2 billion over the course of, like, 30 years. It was, like, nothing.
Agreed. And what happens when that aid gets cut off for issues that are internal? Like, when there's an emergency and you're on an airplane and the shit pops down from the roof, you have to secure your mask before you secure the mask of others. That's just common
What are we
sense.
talking about?
I don't
And
get
so
it.
if an emergency happens and we have to like focus our aid and our money internally because there's like a war or something,
Okay.
all that external aid dries up and just goes away. It's vanished.
I think
It's
that you
gone.
Currently-
assume that we spend
And
more
then
on aid
you
than
are
we actually
completely
Yeah.
do. We don't actually spend all that
dependent
much
on
foreign
America
aid.
for that aid that you have been getting. And yes, it's
Percent.
beneficial and you love it now, but
Yeah.
right when it stops, like a lot of the previous countries that I brought up at the beginning, now you become our enemy, and now you're like literally probably like just completely opposed to
Let's
us.
give it to
So
Ace.
I'll
Hold
say-
on. We'll give it to Ace first and Gibbs after. Go ahead.
Percent of GDP, the United States spends on aid 0.24%, which once again, the goal we should be spending is 0.7%. During the Marshall Plan, it was like 3%. The idea that there's going to be some kind of emergency in the United States and that the United States would not survive without that 0.24% of GDP, that's like crazy. That's insane. And once again, when we look at Bosnia, we spent $2 billion. That's like nothing when you look at the United States and what we spend money on. So ultimately, we can continue to fund Bosnia, we continue to give aid to Bosnia, and as we do, they're going to continue to buy more American goods, as I said, $1 to $8. And they're going to continue to support the United States, they're going to continue to vote with the United States, and they're going to continue to be allies with us. In Africa, a place where China's beating us out right now, they're voting with China. They're voting with China in the United Nations. They're putting Chinese officials in key positions of the United Nations, and we're losing U.S. soft power because of it. So I don't think that there's going to be some emergency where we can't fund the 0.24%.
I'll bring
or
up an
even the
example then.
0.7.
We have an economic downturn
wait, I think
due to
Gibbs-
deflation, and we're trying to bring in that money that we're sending externally to increase that deflation and reverse it. Like
0.24
we would
would do
want to
nothing.
probably cut some of that aid.
Sure,
Well,
but
no.
0.24 would do nothing. And there's other
It's
areas
a
we can
very
cut
small
foreign aid.
amount of money that we spend on foreign aid. Like I need
Yeah.
you.
But you're
I
wanting
need
it
you
to
to
increase, and the more
that's-
that
Yeah, I
you
wanna
increase
increase it-
it,
I
the
wanna
more of a
increase it.
factor it
Foreign aid.
becomes.
Okay. Gibbs.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Gibbs.
So yeah, that depends on what we're defining as foreign aid right here, because this is the reason why I brought up Rwanda in the beginning. Like, I think that Tosh is absolutely correct. You could bring up South Korea, you could bring up Japan, and you could talk about the Marshall Plan. Well, that's very good. That's great. That hasn't been relevant since the Marshall Plan was fucking around, right? We're looking about now. Let's talk about recent shit. How is the Afghan military? How much did we spend on that? Wasn't it almost like $800 billion or some shit like that? No, yeah. I have it here.
You're really
Yeah,
loving us.
83 billion with a 2 trillion overall for the whole war, right? Now, do you think that now that the Taliban has one of the controls of one of the strongest militaries in the region, they look like they're about to start a war on 3 fronts with 3 of their neighbors over fucking water. Do you think that they like us in Afghanistan? Or
This
they
is-
are
So
brand-
I would like
Hold
to
on.
make a point here. I would like to make a point here that we do make these situations happen on purpose so that we can sell weapons to them.
Well, sure, I agree with that, and I'm actually not opposed to that, but that's a whole different subject. However, however, when we're sitting here talking about foreign aid, it's different when we're sitting here going playing World's Arms Dealer, and hey, let's go over here and fund a military and fall apart. Whenever I can point to an example like Rwanda, which is picked up for France and the U.S. pulling out, and they're still backing Western influence, and they're still backing Western powers, and they're getting the job done. I don't give a fuck about the United Nations and their watchdogs and their committees. Wow. You know where things go to die? In a committee. I don't give 2 fucks about the UN. Like, every time the UN says there's a war crime, guess what? Israel bombs another fucking apartment complex. Russia bombs another building in fucking Ukraine. No one gives a fuck about the UN. It's a laughingstock. The world knows it. I know it. You know it. And for you to sit here and honestly bring them up on a panel is laughable. Thirdly, when I'm sitting here going seeing results, I can see the results.
matter.
It matters. It'd be like, look, the McDonald's index was a thing. No country was fighting each other at 2 McDonald's until, like, I don't know, 5 years ago or some bullshit, right? We can see this with the microloans being wildly successful in Africa. We don't need to be spending this money or whatever. I am down for the infrastructure. I said that in my opening. It's not exclusively your point. I said I'm down to see changes being spent on things that are good, like China, the Belt and Road today, with infrastructure, but on a case-by-case basis. I'd rather it get spent on that. But the Impoundment Act, I had to go freaking look it up, in 1974, that was the thing I was talking about earlier, stops us from doing that shit, and the Dems are dying on that hill. Well, I think what Trump should do is go, okay, we're just going to give all the money to right-leaning NGOs now, and then y'all are going to sit here, suddenly y'all are going to want to reallocate the money. So if you really want change, you need to vote out Dems.
Can you name a right-leaning NGO?
So
no, but we can make them. Don't worry.
okay.
The Gibbs Caring Foundation. I'll open it tomorrow.
Can I say, Gibbs, you're not debating the Dems. You're debating me, and not once have I said that I support all the things that Democratic.
Well, I think then we're probably in agreement that we just need to rework.
Hold on. Hey, let Ace finish.
Hey, hell yeah.
Anyways, what I'm saying is we're not talking about the Dems or the right or anything like that. Once again, you and me agree then that we should increase aid to 0.7% and spend it on a Belt and Road type initiative to increase infrastructure across Africa, South America, Central America, and the Middle East. Do you agree?
But we all agree that we also need to cut the current aid that we're currently dishing out because it's really horrible, and we need to doge the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, we need to gut it
and trim all the fat. Yes, we need to reassess.
Yeah,
and then dump the money.
I've said nothing like that.
Yeah, I don't think Charlie said
at all.
Well, we're getting Ace on board. We're dragging him on our side.
I want to say that was a really weird statement where you said, "Yeah, we got to reassess, and then we got to bulldoze."
Yeah, we got to gut it. And
yeah, we have to doge the fuck out of all the aid that we're currently just throwing into the wells all across the world.
Aid that you guys
actually send it out to have those wells being built.
Tash, aid that you guys are currently deeming as useless. For every dollar we spend on it, we get $8 back on increase.
Well, maybe we should get more.
I mean,
I don't have time to dive into this statistics. Maybe I will later, and maybe I'll come around to agreeing with you.
We make money off of the aid that we give out, though. That is a fact.
Yes, because it's corruption and bloat, and a lot of that is being spent on like think tanks in the U.S. of how to build the best well in Africa, and all that bullshit that probably doesn't need to happen.
Why not?
Because it's fucking Africa. They can figure out how to build a decent enough well. We don't have to have a panel of engineers and spend millions of dollars to figure out the best fucking well design.
China won't even.
And then they will make that money off of Africa, and we will not.
No. What China will do is they won't have a think tank. They'll just use their slave labor to do it. And it's no surprise to me that the Dems are making the same argument as Big Cotton right now. Like, I mean, Dems love slavery, and what we're doing is saying, hey, we're going to sit here, we're going to give these countries money. I'm not accusing. I'm saying the Dems in general, the metaphorical Dems, they're sitting here making the argument, if these countries are given money, it's somehow going to make them beholden to us. And then same argument they're going with the welfare state. If we just give these people money, they'll just somehow better their lives with no changes, and we can just give them money eternally, and they'll just keep voting for us. Because who doesn't want free shit? I mean, I bet every country wants some free shit from Daddy
programs
America.
like UBI do typically end in people having better quality of life and being able to
Yes,
really.
Get more money.
It's like very
to fund us more. We're doing a good job.
We're about to fragment into 4 separate conversations, and I want to drag it back into one single conversation where we talk about aid. We talk about bloat, fraud, waste. I hear those things a lot. I want to ask Charlie. Can you think of any current foreign spending program that we do that you would consider bloat, fraud, waste, what have you?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Ace, you got one?
I can. So earlier we were talking about militarizing the Middle East I never got to really touch on this when we talked about Afghanistan. And that was one of my key points. The idea is that we could hold on to Afghanistan using the military. Failed. We saw that fail in Afghanistan. You said that, Gibbs. You're the one who said that happened, that we failed to hold it militarily by giving them weapons and stuff. I'm saying we shouldn't do that. The future of warfare, right, isn't military. The future of warfare is economic, and we see that with China. We see that with China gaining soft power across the entire world.
Is that played out in the Russia-Ukrainian war?
Let's be clear. We did not fail militarily. The KD ratio was like 1 to 800 or some crazy bullshit. Like, I don't want to hear that we failed. We failed diplomatically.
So your idea of success is killing people?
No, my idea of success is like successful. If we had stayed there 100 years, we could have probably changed the culture. But we didn't have the stomach for it. We gave in. That's what happened there.
Yeah, because it wasn't a fit. Okay, first off, really weird to just be like, we could just keep killing people till the culture was better. But
That's
secondly,
insane. Also,
That's not-
maniacal.
that's
Okay.
hold on.
Secondly-
That is not what I said. That's what you're putting on me.
you said the KD, the KD ratio.
with the Taliban, the terrorists, and all the little groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda and all the other ones.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about random bomb that went into whatever village. That's
so-
what we're talking about. We're not talking about war crimes. If we had stayed there and had 2 or 3 generations, like we have one generation of women, for example, that grew up and got to go to college. Like if women stay home in that culture, right, and they sit here and teach Western values, maybe the next generation, they're probably going to be more liberal. Isn't this what y'all leftists want? Y'all want to liberalize the world.
Why are you accusing? You don't know my political views. You're
listen, you're not the only one here. There's the chat.
That
There's
is
Ben,
the issue.
like Charlie's.
You're saying you're not a Democrat, but you're arguing on the side of.
I mean, we're kind of, aren't we? Are we not responsible largely? I'm thinking specifically of Iran, but did we not fund a lot of and play a big part in, creating those circumstances that allowed like Islamic extremists to hold power and thus women's rights
through aid.
Before I let you respond to that, $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Thank you for the $5, sir. Says we're giving money to influence and control. Nothing is done out of the kindness of our heart. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's the point.
But we're doing it in a poor manner in which we're just throwing a lot of the money down the well. In my opinion.
Never said I completely support what USAID is doing.
Reassessed. And then you agree with us. That's fantastic.
No. Because my claim is we should increase aid, and if you want to do that,
cutting all the fat.
What?
I agree.
So
yes, we need to trim all the current fat that is, like you're saying, that is a waste.
Yeah.
And then redirect it towards actually good, better, projects that you can actually see the returns of.
We don't need to increase it until we know what we're cutting. There's no reason to
you have to figure out what you're getting rid of before you pump it. That's my main point, and I think you agree with us.
No. So what I'm saying...
You don't?
No, I'm trying to... I got a lot of things here to hit at once. First off, the idea that China is solely spending this, I want to point out that China is solely spending this on building highways isn't true. China spends a small portion of it on art, spends it on that kind of stuff. And then secondly, the idea that currently, you're saying it's not efficient. It's not efficient. You keep saying it doesn't work. I keep telling you that we are making money off of it. I've given you the numbers on how much money we're making off of it, and you say, well, it's not working. That's not
how much is that compared to China? Do you have that statistic?
Well, China's spending less and doing more. Doesn't that prove what we're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm imagining. I'm imagining China's putting a lot less in and getting a lot more out.
I thought the Belt
$1 trillion Belt and Road
$1 trillion, like $1 trillion of aid. We don't do anything close to that. $5 from Audacity, which isn't also close to $1 trillion, but it's $5 closer to $1 trillion. To say, I've said it once on the show, I'll say it again. USAID played a direct role in the Taliban's economy and the never-ending drug war. Thank you for the $5.
Also true.
Okay. So once again, USAID shouldn't go to the Taliban. I don't know. I don't know if you need me to.
$10 million of the $10 million of USAID money did go to the Taliban.
Well, it was also not even going to the Taliban. It was going to the poppy farmers that were actually trying to sell heroin to finance their farms and whatnot that were opposed to the Taliban.
Yeah, and you know what we have now? Fentanyl and all the drugs.
Yay!
Because of the Chinese?
Yeah. And they're shipping in large quantities of precursors into Mexico, where they're mixing it up and then shipping it across the border.
We are getting I don't even know where we're going.
Are you saying that we should start giving fentanyl to Vietnam and having them ship it into China? I like Charlie's idea. That's actually a good based idea. We should do that.
What did I say? What?
I'm really lost.
Yeah,
what did you think that I said?
We're just funding fentanyl factories in
Vietnam. It's a great idea, Charlie. We couldn't have thought of it ourselves.
I did not say those words. None of those words came out of my mouth. I just said that once we withdrew, there started being fentanyl the drugs.
Well, there's question. This is a question to Charlie. Hold on, just real quick, please. This is a question to Charlie and to Ace's side, right? Yeah. There have been occasions, right? While overall we might get an economic benefit to aid, there have been instances, pretty famously, of us putting money into different groups that later turn around and use that development against us, the Taliban being perhaps the most famous and relevant one.
Yeah.
And also, right, like Osama bin Laden, well, we funded him. Look what he did with it, right?
South Vietnam,
what
Afghanistan,
I guess the
Egypt,
question,
Mexico,
the question,
Iraq,
hold on, just
Pakistan.
real quick, stop, please, let me finish my fucking question. Okay, thank you. Jesus Christ. The question becomes, is it worth the cost? Is it worth the cost for the risks that we are facing? Like, how are you going to tell the dead soldiers, right, that were killed by U.S. weapons that, oh, hey, we got a little bit more money at home, so,
Well, I mean, I guess if I was an arms dealer, if I was involved in the military-industrial complex, I'd be like, worth it. I loved this. There was a Democrat. There were Democrats and Republicans that made a pretty penny off of these. Oh, did I disconnect? Hello?
No,
You're here.
Hello?
Hello? No, you're here.
Hello?
Hello?
Charlie?
Oh no, you got to kick her. She thinks
she
she's
got
Hello?
fentanyl?
not here.
Oh my God! It was the fentanyl.
It was
the
fentanyl.
fentanyl.
I
Gosh,
know.
bro. You gotta
Drugs.
go back to the poppies, bro. The poppies.
Yeah.
We need 'em.
Okay,
Puppies.
hey, now we're back.
Again, like okay. Sorry, I'm so scattered today.
No, it's okay. If you need to take
listen.
a minute, we can give it to Ace.
No. Listen,
Okay.
listen. What I'm saying is that God, it's hard to argue this because I'm so worried about people in my chat thinking that these are things that I actively believe. I don't.
Audience
But again,
capture.
if I worked for the military-industrial complex, or if I was a wealthy politician with ties to, arms dealers and etc., I'd be like, well, this doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, we've been sending people to die for no reason since, God, Vietnam. So what does it matter? The rich people make money. And ultimately, at the end of the day, any politician that's voting to reduce or increase USAID is not doing so because they want to do good things across the world. They want to make, lobbyists big money. Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
Ace,
So
ultimately, we benefit. We, the richest of us, benefit when our allies turn against us, at the expense of our own and innocents dying en masse. But you know what? Rich people get richer. So
when you talk,
up.
You were talking about the Taliban, how this money goes towards the Taliban, and then all of a sudden it goes crazy. That's the exception, not the rule. All right, we can talk. It is the exception. It's not the rule. Gibbs, you look like wide-eyed. 11 of America's top 15 biggest trading partners are former recipients of U.S. foreign assistance. We talked about, I've given the statistics time and time again, how according to the US TDA, if we co-finance project studies overseas, we generate $85 for every dollar. And then for every dollar we spend on just general foreign aid, US export increases by $8 as aid recipient countries develop and they become more accustomed to American goods. Ultimately, what we're seeing is it is working. You talk about being wasteful. You keep saying that, pointing out specific little cases. I'm saying as a whole, USAID has generated us a ton of money, and we see that with these numbers. We see the return on our investment there. And you can once again point to Colombian gay operas or whatever.
Let me ask you a question.
As a whole.
Let me ask you a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Because you said two interesting things there. You said USAID, but earlier you were talking about the Marshall Plan. Right now,
yeah.
Are you saying, when you listen to the statistic of all these countries that have received foreign aid from America, are you only talking about the countries that have received USAID? Or are you talking about countries that received money under the Marshall Plan back in the day? Because there is a substantial difference. Because if I start going through Arab Spring, the Iraq war government afterwards, the Iraqi military, Afghanistan, I think we see quite a bit of difference between, hey, these countries are doing super good and are great trading partners, and I don't know, South Korea, South Korea, all the Western Bloc countries, Japan. I think there's a drastic difference between the results of the Marshall Plan and I don't know what USAID's doing.
So what are you kind of asking? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
So
what
you're saying, we're getting 8 of our dollars back or 18 of our dollars back with X amount spent through whatever. Well, you brought up the Marshall Plan, so I'm asking: when you're bringing up a lot of these stats, are you talking about all the countries that have ever received foreign aid? Are we, going back to like all the Marshall Plan countries, or are we just talking
Yeah.
about countries that are receiving
So
foreign aid now?
US
Because there's a
US
drastic difference.
US aid going towards the Middle East is probably less likely to return on investment because we're bombing the fuck out of the Middle East and we have forever. So once again, what I'm saying is,
Are we not bombing
maybe
the
we
fuck out of
shouldn't-
Africa? Oh, like,
When are we bombing the fuck out of Africa?
Who are we
What-
bombing in Africa?
Who are
I
we
mean,
bombing
we
in
were
Africa?
working.
When
with
did
the
we
Brits,
start bombing
we were
Africa?
We were working with the Nigerians against Boko Haram. We've worked with Chad against Boko Haram. I know Djibouti. They've flown missions in Somalia. I think Somalia is still in Africa, right?
Okay.
I don't know. Unless you're saying these things.
Nothing
Mali with
close to
France.
the Middle
We've
East.
done.
Yeah, that's not even.
I mean,
Nothing close
it's
to the
still
Middle East.
bombing across Africa, is it not?
Sure, in like the simplest sense, but it's nothing
Okay, cool.
It's nothing close to the Middle East. When I say bombing in the Middle East, I'm talking about literally bombing the Middle East. Like,
I mean, they're literally
Yeah.
bombing these
Yeah.
places. I mean, like, there's a giant war in Somalia all the time. Like, I mean, it's one of the most
Okay.
fought over countries in the world.
so, anyways, the difference
But I mean,
here.
no, you
exactly,
can anyways,
sure,
sure
sure.
it. But like this is happening, and you're just like trying to hand wave it.
Yeah, because it kind of means nothing. Anyways,
It
when we
doesn't
talk
mean
about
nothing.
yeah,
Like it means a lot because it disproves your point.
China
Those
is
countries
getting
don't like
better
this either.
benefit. China is getting better returns from the Middle East and from Africa because they're not using military strength to try to hold those regions like the United States did, like they did in Afghanistan. And you said earlier, you were the one who made
What
the
about in
claim.
Nepal? What about in Nepal?
Other countries. What?
How's China's doing in Nepal?
Nepal's not
Nope.
in the Middle East.
Oh
Anyways,
yeah, but they conquered it with the military, right? I mean, well, hold on. You're saying neither. Okay, if it's not in the Middle East, then we can't talk about any of the good China's
that's not
done
what
in
I'm
Africa.
saying. What I'm saying is I'm
So we
talking
can
about
only
the Belt
talk
and
about.
Road in the Middle
We
East.
can only.
and you
Admiral
talk
Gibbs,
about Nepal.
Admiral
we can
Gibbs,
only-
we
hold
are
on, we can-
talking specifically about the Middle East
Yes.
right this
No,
moment.
no.
Which
Hold on,
is
Charlie.
which is frankly
This is
far
the
more
problem.
relevant in many ways than Nepal.
Yeah,
So,
no,
so we are
it's not.
talking
No,
about
okay,
the
wait,
Middle East
Okay,
as
you're all
you're
talking at
missing
once. You're all gonna
American
stop talking
interests.
you're
right
missing
now.
the
Hold on.
point.
You're
You're
all
missing the
gonna
point.
stop. You're all gonna stop talking about. I'll let you go, Gibbs, in a second. $10 from Crash Out or Cash Out to say just here to discuss Charlie's breath kink. But USAID sends money to NGOs that have little to no supervision of how it's used, ultimately lining pockets with no positive correlation of output. You lie. That's what he said.
Who the fuck said my breath?
Your breath kink.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sus.
Breath? BREATH?
Yes, breath kink.
I
Don't take
guess
the
you like
bait.
this.
Who said that?
They're just
Yeah,
trying to
no,
trigger
Crash
you.
Out or Cash Out. He paid me $10.
Yeah, listen, Listerine, buy
Let's give it to
stock.
Gibbs.
I don't fucking
Give
know.
it to Gibbs.
Yeah,
My
you can
kink
discuss
for
that with him
breathing.
later on.
Yeah, we got some mints, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, listen. I when you're sitting here trying to hand wave Africa, I'm bringing up Africa because you sat here the whole time till you're blue in the face and gone, oh, China's doing so good in Africa. And I go, well, okay. Well, they're also not bombing the ever living fuck out of Africa. We are.
Exactly.
We're doing hold on. We are doing this in conjunction with France, all this shit. And then you go, oh, the Middle East, we're bombing the fuck out of them. And I go, yeah, we are bombing in both places, right? And you're going, we should keep sending money to Africa where we're bombing them also. It's just not as in the news as much. And you're going, oh, I'm going, oh, they're going to still hate us there. And you're going, no, totally different. China, get away with it. And I bring up Nepal because you said, oh, military strength doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because Nepal doesn't even exist as a fucking country anymore. Because guess what? China fucking owns it. We moved in with the military. They conquered it. Guess what? It doesn't matter what kind of soft power they're using in Nepal. How about the Dalai Lama? Are they sending him a basket of fruit every year on Christmas and going, hey, buddy, how you doing? No, this is ridiculous that you're sitting here going, oh, it's not equivalent. Because we did the same thing with Afghanistan, except we gave it up.
And just real quick, I
respond?
just want to say, like, look, there's nothing wrong with a breath kink. I have a breath kink. Unlike Lactoid,
I don't have a breath
I will
kink.
only
I don't
date
know what
girls
that
who breathe.
is.
I will only
Yeah,
date
breathe.
girls who breathe.
Oh.
I will
breath.
not date girls
Oh,
who do
God.
not breathe. That's my.
Yeah.
It's a kink, gang. It's just
I love
a thing.
alive
would you-
women.
Yes,
what about the Bride of
they are my
Frankenstein?
favorite.
You wouldn't date the Bride of Frankenstein?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
But anyway,
No.
So-
She'd be cold. She'd be cold.
I
Yeah,
do want to
cold.
give a chance for
No
Charlie
lightning, no
and
spark.
for Ace to respond to that. So go ahead.
So once again, I'm not saying military might doesn't matter at all. What I'm saying is that military might has been remarkably ineffective for the United States to actually hold soft power in many of these regions, such as Afghanistan. So let's stop bombing the Middle East, and instead let's invest in things like the India, Middle East, European corridor, which was supposed to be an economic corridor in the region that was supposed to cost only between like $8 billion and $20 billion. Ultimately, what we should do is invest in those things and not bomb them, because that's what China's doing, as you said, as we agree, and we see it leading to economic return for them. We see it leading to not only soft power gains, we see it leading towards better resources for them, we see it towards votes in the UN, which once again, you said, who cares about the UN? Majority of the world cares about the UN, so it's kind of you versus them, Admiral Gibbs. And ultimately, China's getting more of a return because they're not bombing the fuck out of the Middle East. They're not bombing the shit out of Africa, as you say. Let's say I agree with you, and they are bombing the shit out of Africa. Let's stop doing that. Instead, take that money, build highways, build power plants, so we can gain soft power in the region. So I don't agree with China's invasion of Nepal and taking over. I don't agree with any of that. I never said military power was useless. I said it's ineffective compared to economic methods that China is deploying, because the future of warfare is not military. The future of warfare is economic in nature.
Also, out of Gibbs, I thought you were into the bombing. You said you wanted, America to switch to hard power, I guess, would be. You wanted military might. You wanted us to, threaten people instead of wielding our soft power. That's what you want, right? Is for the U.S. to terrorize the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, basically they should do that. I think the difference is, though, China has done that as effectively as well, while we've sat here and not been willing to stomach things. Like, if we had sat there, like I said, stayed in Afghanistan for 100 years, I think that most people there in 100 years would be better off than they're going to be under the Taliban. Like, I think that American culture is the best culture, and I feel like we can see examples of economic. You made a good point. The economics is the way to win, but it's through things like the microloan programs, through building, having companies build like the Starbucks and the McDonald's. It's not going to be through the way we've been doing it. It's been a waste, I think, overall. I think we can point to tons of those. We can go look at all these NGOs where the money's disappeared in dark matter. You said it's not. I don't agree with that. I can find my own stats and point to those saying, hey, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all laughed when I brought it up earlier, but with the 10 million going, but that's literally took me all of 2 seconds to find that, right? That's why I said we can sit here and argue about what is waste. But when you're sitting here going, oh, we should just increase spending, it's ludicrous to me, because it feels like we've been just growing the spending. And now just the idea of, hey, maybe we should take a look-see at these things, gut that shit that's not working, and then maybe reassess it before we just write more checks is just offensive to you.
It is working, though, because we do not do this so that people succeed. We do not give people foreign aid because we want them to succeed. We provide foreign aid so that they do what we want them to do.
Yeah, well, if we instead, what we should do is provide foreign aid for people to succeed that are our buddies, and then when they succeed at other people's expense, hey, jackpot. Just like every other regional power, like Russia and China are doing, it's time for us to play the world game instead of playing La Fantasyland, where we think we're starting on some moral high horse.
We are playing the world game, and we are losing it. We are losing it by giving.
Yeah.
We are very much playing the world game. We have been. And we've been winning, and now we're losing. We're going to lose to China. Russia's
I think what
irrelevant.
Admiral Gibbs is saying is that we've been using a bit too much carrot in throwing out the aid everywhere amongst the world, and all of those countries have just become fat and dependent on that carrot, and we haven't been using near enough fucking stick. And we need to use quite a bit much more stick and reduce the amount of carrot that we're just carelessly throwing out there.
I think you just admitted that they are dependent on the United States.
To a large degree, and I think in some cases that is, like you're saying, good, because you're bribing some tribal warlord to maybe not brutalize his people that he would do otherwise if you weren't giving him that money. But at the same time, sometimes when you're giving those people that money, they're then able to just finance other things like October, the whole attack on Israel with the hang gliders and whatnot, which apparently was in large part funded from Iran, and it could have been funded because Iran was getting so much money from the U.S. that they then don't have to spend internally and can then divert that externally to terror plots to murder Jews.
Cash, you made 6 points. I want you to connect them all. I want you to prove to me that Iran getting money from USAID resulted in Iran pushing Hamas towards doing October.
So we don't actually provide. We do not provide more of their
aid.
We do not provide foreign aid to Iran, and I think there's even sanctions.
We don't give them money through the nuclear deal.
Yeah, we did release money for the nuclear deal.
Yeah, Biden did that. What are you talking about?
Sure, but that's not foreign aid.
Wow.
Okay, well,
foreign
it's the
aid.
same fucking thing. We're releasing money
hold
to
on,
a
it is
hostile
foreign.
country
Yeah.
Okay,
and freeing
every
up
case of
them
giving money
to
isn't
spend more
foreign
money
aid.
on terror because they no longer have to spend it on food and water for their people.
I
Okay,
mean, I
Well,
get
I
that you
guess
every
we're
don't
time
also
want
money
doing
is
that for
exchanged
Israel
isn't
too. I
foreign
don't know
aid.
what the point is here. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm against that too. We should probably like reassess all the aid, especially that's going into Israel and Gaza, because it's
and
kind
then
of
they get
just
it from,
them
and then they
shooting
get it from
rockets at each other
China.
and
Then they
Yeah.
get
then
it from
shooting
China.
other
That's the
rockets
point.
that are blowing up the rockets that are
Oh,
all our
let
tax
China waste
money
the money.
blowing up in the sky like a bunch of fireworks.
China's not wasting. Wait, Gibbs, you're not getting the point. You said let China waste the money. They're not wasting the money. They're getting a fuck ton of soft power from this. They're getting ports around the world. They're getting
They're
better
using a
trade.
lot more stick than carrot.
Yeah, they also use a
No,
lot more
they're
stick
No,
than
they're
carrot.
not.
They
They're
do all the time.
like
They
soldiers,
absolutely
almost
fucking
soldiers.
are.
China
If
is
you
using
don't
more
pay
military
it,
power
they
than the
take
Middle East
Okay,
and the US.
okay.
A
Wow,
lot of
you're
it
all
is in
yelling
the
at each other
form of
again. So
loans
I
versus just
before
pure
we
aid
go
like we
on,
get.
$5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Thank you for the $5. Says defense budget is not USAID, conflating the two. We are losing because the aid is covering overhead and not actually the random issues that are questionable. Thank you for the $5.
What
Let me
random
ask you,
issues
like
are
the
what?
people who are saying that China is wasting this money. Can you give me an example of where China is wasting the money?
Well, hold on, like I don't think anybody here is saying that. Like what we're saying
You said
You
is,
said let
China
China
wasted
waste
the
money.
money.
You did say that.
no,
You said let China
yes,
waste the money.
Yeah, I did say let China waste the money. I would like to expound upon that. Perfect. Thank you. This is real simple. Yeah, China's being more effective with their spending. They're absolutely, by the way, this is unequivocal fact right here. What I'm about to say is they use way more stick than we do. Like right now, they're fucking have fights with all of the fucking people in the South China Sea. They're building bases. They're encroaching on territory. They're threatening Taiwan. They're threatening the Philippines. They threaten Vietnam all the time. They fought a war recently with Vietnam. They fought like battles with India, like skirmishes. They conquered Nepal, the Ungar Muslims. Like I could just go on and on and on and on. I don't know how we're going to debate that. Are they using the stick as much in China and Africa? No, maybe not. But they are much more willing to use the stick compared to us. The second thing is, if they wanted to go get involved with the quagmire that is Israel, fucking Palestine, that would be a difference, right? I think if they want to go get involved, that would be great for us. You know why? Because they could go throw endless amounts of money trying to solve this war, unless they decide we're going to send Chinese boots on the ground and everybody has to stop and listen to China. Like that would be something they might do that we're not willing to do. They're people, if they protest, they're just going to kill them.
I'm gonna
Just real quick,
Linka,
let me ask
just
Gibbs, because you keep saying Nepal, and I checked when they conquered Nepal. When did they conquer Nepal?
Or it's Tibet. That's what I meant.
Okay, because I was like, I don't.
Yeah, it's Tibet. Sorry, they're like right next to each other.
Rewrite all the Nepals and put in Tibet.
Carrot versus stick. Carrot versus stick. I linked a map of American versus Chinese military bases. And as you can see, there are American military bases all over the world. We in fact use more stick than China. However, overall, we use more carrot than we do stick on our own, but we do use a lot more stick than China. China uses far more carrot.
I just think they have less availability to use stick at the moment, but they're trying to build that up.
$5 from Testicle Johnson to say the baby-faced warrior has been killing it, and then $2 from Deej Nuts to say China no fight with stick.
Probably you have been killing it.
Well, I do have a baby face too. It sucks now to be really good when I'm 40. But what was I gonna say? When we talk about the South China Sea and the 9-dash line through the South China Sea, I'd like to point out that one of the biggest groups that's been supporting China in the South China Sea is Africa. 39 African governments support the Chinese expansion into the South China Sea and the 9-dash line. China gets that support. China stops being persecuted. They get those types of votes in the UN because of the fact that they are supporting Africa without using the stick. They're supporting Africa with semi-concessional loan rates. They're giving Africa more leniency.
Those are predatory loans.
Okay, actually, no.
Yes!
Wait,
they're literally giving them loans that they know they won't be able to pay back on infrastructure
We
that's
did
going
that
to
all
fall
over
apart.
South America. We did that to every South American country. We
and then
love
they
that.
basically bought a chunk of the country.
Do those countries like
Ace,
That's a loan.
Hold on. Ace really wants to respond to this. Ace has a response to this.
You
Predatory
can't
loans.
give
Go
me an
ahead.
example of that, because the examples that I have in Ethiopia, they extended a $4 billion repayment plan from 10 to 30 years just to ease the debt in the country. Not only that, but China. When we talk about China, we can look at former Senegalese president Wade, who said China's approach to African needs is simpler, better adapted than the slow and sometimes patronizing post-colonial approach of European investors and donors. Oftentimes, it's Western loans that are actually the ones that are bankrupting these countries because China is giving them at a semi-concessional rate. They're giving them better rates than the US is. They don't want them to bankrupt. They want them to build these highways, so they buy Chinese goods. So they buy Chinese values. That's the entire point of the Belt and Road. The Belt and Road isn't some get-rich-quick scheme.
Let me ask you a question. How much naval power do you think that the African nations are fucking providing to China in the South China Sea?
They don't have to support. They don't have to give up.
Well, hold on,
Africa
hold on,
to
hold
the
on, dude,
power.
hold on. Does the
I've never
African
made that claim.
hold on? Do the African? You did make this claim. You said they.
No,
What
they support them in the
hold on,
United
you
Nations.
said what countries are supported, and you listed what 36, 39.
39.
How many? Okay, all right. How are those countries supporting them navally in the region?
They're
They're
taking
not.
loans.
They're
Gibbs.
doing it
What's
alone,
that?
right? Yeah, are they going to
What?
send? Are they sending Reverend Sharpton out there with a rowboat to go yell at the Philippines? Who are they fighting here? Like, what are
Yeah, no.
what
So,
are the African nations doing? Like to
Charlie,
help
you
China?
got muted for a second.
Yeah.
So once again, what I'm saying is that when the United Nations tries to implement policy to prevent China from doing these things, which once again, if you want to go on a tirade about how the UN isn't effective, you can do that. But once again, when the UN tries to put forward policy that tries to stop China, the Africa is voting with China to prevent those policies, which gives China that much more ability to do so without global scrutiny, because they're not violating any UN treaties, because those UN treaties aren't being passed because Africa's voting with China. Like 70% of the time.
China's on the Security Council. Like, I mean,
Okay,
isn't
I'm not
Russia?
talking about the Security Council. I'm talking about like the.
Oh, well, I mean,
primaries.
that's
So,
really the only the one that matters in the UN anyway. They're the ones who make the big like.
that sounds like a.
I mean,
Sure.
it's a fact.
I'm not.
It's a fact. Like, you're arguing, 30, you're saying like 30 something countries support China in the South China Sea. Cool. If all they can provide is like one destroyer, I mean.
Okay, so Gibbs, that's not the Gibbs. I need you to understand that
Good.
if China, okay, listen to me. If China is providing tons of foreign aid everywhere and making a shit ton of money off of it, and also gaining support worldwide, this means that they will be able to build up their military more, because they will have the money and the resources that we are going to potentially be cut off from. This means this is a long game, but it will benefit them, and we will lose power, we will lose money, we will lose influence. China will again gain more access to resources at a cheaper rate, more soft power. Like, again, they will build their military more. Like, this benefits them.
Okay, before you respond, $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. China is not wasting money. They are actually investing to the countries with their businesses that they ultimately control, and not NGOs. $5 from let me finish. $5 from Mori Memento to say, I'm not much of a carrot person. I think we should use steak. Steak is yummy.
Your steak is good.
And
then $5 from Audacity.
Increase to that 0.7.
$5 to Audacity to say, Jamie, pull up that picture of the African cobalt mines. Thank you for the $5. Okay, now you can respond, Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the guy just said it best, is they're not spending it wasteful on NGOs. Like, the idea, we've sat here and circled the drain kind of on this idea. Hey, we should just blank check increase spending. You know, and Tosh and I both argued, hey, let's take a look at these things. And then Ace over here is bringing up, oh, well, these 36 countries support China
39.
in the 39 countries in the South China Sea. Like, they don't provide any whatever. Also, I would like to point out that the Belt and Road Initiative is successful by our metrics right now, right? However, there's a lot of concerns that it's a ticking time bomb for China. If these countries are not able to prepay loans, it's going to be a debt trap. And this is part of the reason why I said, hey, if they want to go get involved in the Middle East, maybe we should fucking let them. It's been just a black hole money pit for us. You even admitted that, Ace. If they go in there and get involved, I have the theory that they're probably going to use more stick, and I don't think that that's going to respond very well over there, and I think they're going to end up wasting money, and I think this could be a great way, hey, for us to eject and maybe let them walk into this quagmire that's been existing since the Ottoman Empire fell. I don't see why that's even crazy.
All right. So you said you have a theory that they would use more stick. That's not proved by any metrics. We see China not doing that, as we've talked about. Charlie sent the map showing that China is not doing that. So ultimately, you can have a theory. I can have a theory that they don't. It doesn't mean anything. And then when you talk about people seeing this as like a debt trap, once again, the United States is the one giving the higher rate loans. The United States is the one doing that. China is giving the semi-concessional rate loans, and they're increasing debt repayments from like 10 to 30 years because ultimately they don't want it to be a debt trap because it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. The idea of the Belt and Road is to make the world China-centric once again, just like it was during the Silk Road. That's literally where the name comes from. They want the world to be focused around China because the US did so after World War II, and guess how they did it? With the Marshall Plan. That's how they did it.
I just want to point out the number of military bases you have shows the capability to use stick, not necessarily the amount of stick you're using.
Good point.
Because China's going to invest $1 trillion in the Belt and Road into the Middle East, and then they're going to go over there with a destroyer.
Because a lot of those jobs
that
that are building those infrastructures in the contracts are mandated to be Chinese jobs, so they're literally shipping over Chinese workers to do a lot of that jobs, and then it's helping their economy.
Yes, to enrich
internally.
China.
Yeah. So it's literally helping them out.
Hey, you don't think that if China invested
we should be doing something more similar to that than I feel like a lot of the stuff that we are doing.
Yeah, we probably should be, but we're not. You guys want to cut all the aid. You want to cut the aid.
No, not all the aid. No one has ever said that. That is completely.
Who said we should cut it and then restructure it? How long is that going to take, you think? If we cut it completely?
It definitely will take a minute, and a lot of the people that are dependent on it will die
if we cut
but guess
aid.
what?
They will
if we
die.
just keep giving out the carrots to everyone, at a certain point, we're going to need the carrots internally, and we're not going to be able to be sending them externally. And then a lot of those people are going to be cut off anyway. I feel like it's better to do it in a way where we're assessing it, to do it the best way that we can, and actually like figure out the way we're spending it versus just splurging every day nonstop and getting us into the debt that we're in to a degree, because like it's not helping our debt.
How much money do you
It doesn't matter because every year it increases.
No, but you're saying there's going to be an emergency where we need that back to like pay off something.
No, we don't necessarily need all of it back because we've already spent like 13 years ago.
I am showing you
$50 trillion on foreign aid.
I'm putting in the Discord a link to our
$2.3 trillion
budget and also our GDP versus our GDP versus our total spending.
Yeah.
So I need you to understand that we make a shit ton of money.
No, I understand that, and as our GDP increases, you're wanting to increase the amount of aid that we're sending out.
Yeah, because we're making more money.
Okay, just real quick while you do that.
And I'm saying we need to reassess all the aid that we're sending out, especially if we're going to increase it.
China comes in and takes that.
Well, and that's fine because then we're not wasting money.
It's not fine because then China
dominates into
500 bits from Dark Star LLC to say Gibbs getting cooked by this random college kid is great content. Keep it up. Thank you for the bits. $5 from Feder Methodist to say, can you tell the difference between the carrot and the stick in the dark? Well, sir, one is more mushy than the others.
That's yeah.
Stick?
Gibbs had his hand up.
Oh yeah. Oh, so I mean, I really think this is funny because I get Charlie actually makes the maybe most like important point about what's going to happen in the meantime about cutting it. But I find it interesting that Ace has not addressed my Rwanda argument about how effectiveness of spending. We're getting tangible benefits from Rwanda taking over these contracts. We're getting tangible benefits to rare earth minerals. When we're sitting here going, hey, what does like U.S. spending effectively look like? And I point to Rwanda, who's able to take on a country like 10 to 100, like a way larger country. The DRC is a much bigger country than they are, and they're able to take them on effectively, conquer parts of it, gain access to rare earth minerals, protect the minorities there, and then, hey, we're going to sit here and we're going to sell this to Western societies. I go, that's effective U.S. spending when it's been spent over there.
So
hold on, we should do more of that. However, when I go and turn around, I see these other things like these NGOs that are wasteful. China's not sending money to NGOs. They're doing shit directly. They're building it with their people. They're building the infrastructure. They get the direct returns. That's not what we're doing. We don't have the U.S. Official, power plant in Nigeria. We don't build the like Thomas Jefferson Society for ants in South Africa. It doesn't matter. We're not doing that. But that's like
a lot of our business interests are.
Wait,
Well,
real quick.
just
There's
one
a
last
lot
thing.
of
Just
points.
one last thing. One last thing.
You
One
make
last
so
thing.
many points
Hold on.
that
Oh,
are like.
yeah, I know because I'm gonna wait and let y'all go for a second. One last thing here is the military thing. I think is important. If say they decided we're gonna protect oil in I don't know Iraq. Right, for example, and we're going to build Chinese-backed. China's going to build Chinese-backed oil refineries there. They are absolutely, in my mind, their next step is going to be, hey, let's negotiate a military base here. And then, hey, when the base is attacked by whatever terrorist group decides they're going to try to take over Iraq that week, they're going to go, oh, okay, we're going to defend this because we don't want our oil reserves threatened. And all of a sudden, now China's in the same war that the U.S. has been in for the last fucking umpteen million years. I think that this is something that if they want to go and spend it, the death of big empires is to overextend and just keeps wasting money on bullshit. And I think this is exactly how that happens.
I would say that I don't know, and if anyone knows the answer, how much money does China or Chinese businesses make off of selling arms? Because a lot of the wars that we engage in, does have I know that oil and, poppy plays a huge part in that as well. But again, a lot of the wars that we engage in, and our proxy wars, it's, the purpose is to sell weapons.
I don't know how much money they're
China
making from it, but they're selling a lot of weapons to Pakistan right now that I don't know if you saw that where they have been for decades, and they just got into a little skirmish with India, as well as they're sending artillery shells to North Korea, repackaging them as North Korean artillery shells, and then sending them up to Russia. So that there's a decent amount that they are making off of that kind of stuff too.
So I want to say a couple things. First off, Gibbs made the claim that China doesn't send money to NGOs. That's just blatantly untrue. In fact, they spent money on NGOs to help the April 2015 Nepal earthquakes. They're actually sending money through NGOs to Nepal. We were talking about Nepal a lot.
Disasters are a
it's
good
relatively
exception.
limited. Come on, man.
Disasters are a good exception. I'm for disaster spending too. If there's a massive disaster somewhere, I'm okay with increasing aid slightly to help with that disaster. But once that disaster subsides, which you're funding to do, then like China, they're probably not just leaving those NGOs out there and continuing to fund that shit.
They spent less than $36 million in on one of their highest years. It looks like it was 2019, and they spent less than $36 million American. That's like less than like some restaurants have for the overall budget for the national chain.
Can I hit the next point? So, but you made the claim that they don't give any money to NGOs. I was clarifying that they do. Do they do it to the same degree that the United States does? No, that's not that wasn't my claim. And then next, when we talk about you said this thing. I have a theory that if China builds oil wells in the Middle East, they're going to put Chinese troops there. I sent a map just now showing the Belt and Road Initiative agreements, and then we can look at Charlie's map and see that that's not happening. That they're not building military bases in those areas. They've been doing this since 2013. And they haven't done that. So you can have this theory that the stick is going to increase.
Not yet.
But that's not yet. Sure. How long is it going to take?
10 years. I mean, I don't know, 50? How long did it take to get all? How long did it take to get all our military bases everywhere? I mean,
World War II usually helps to set up infrastructure before you bring in military bases.
Right. So in the entire existence of the U.S. before that, didn't have them. Didn't World War II happen? We're everywhere, right?
Some people say that the whole point of the Belt and Road Initiative is so that you can set up the infrastructure to then have military bases, which is a lot of what they're doing. They're setting up
a lot of people, a lot of analysts.
Infrastructure.
$5 from $5
and then they're slowly going to build up their might and their military bases.
Who are these people?
In their general
I'm about
region.
to give you one of them.
Who's saying this?
$5 from Cash Out to say Charlie and Bed Hair Guy is for funding billionaire NGOs to line the pockets of corrupt politicians. Got it. Thumbs up emoji.
Sure. Once again, the statistic that corruption takes a bunch of the money sent to NGOs is a dead statistic. There's no proof of that. If you have proof of that, send it to me. I'd love to see it. I'll change my view if there's credible evidence that there is a massive percentage getting wasted.
Okay.
But that statistic is a
I
statistic.
do want to, I feel like we're circling the drain here. And I do want to introduce a bit of a different line of discussion, and I'm not sure where everyone stands on this, so maybe it'll be a dead end and we'll all agree and we'll all be like, okay, well, we're done, but we'll see. Who here feels that we should be, well, let me ask you this. Should we pump more money into foreign wars such as Ukraine? Is that something that, Ace, that you would advocate for? What about you, Charlie?
So Sorry. I think I'm very case by case on the foreign war.
I'm talking Ukraine specifically. Ukraine. That's
if we're talking about Ukraine
Yes.
and specifically, I think so mainly because the fact that we signed the Budapest Memorandum along with the United Kingdom, along with Russia, along with Ukraine, giving up Ukraine's nuclear weapons towards Russia. And if we're not one who can honor our word, especially with the Budapest Memorandum, then there's no point in U.S. word. And not only that, but Ukraine is a very important position for the West to hold because the fact that it sits on the Great European Plains, which is where Russia's been invaded, like every time they've been invaded. So if we're talking about from a U.S. perspective, yes, it is very, very beneficial for the U.S. to hold the Great European Plains. If it was Ukraine, whoever it was, yeah. In the case of Ukraine, I would say so.
Are we going to invade Russia?
I never said invade Russia.
No one said invade Russia
Well,
at all.
where they've been invaded through all of history is what you said.
Yeah, I'm saying it's an important position for us to hold in case there was Russian aggression, such as if Russia tried
So
to
that we could invade them.
So we could fight back against them, yes. Because I think it's important for the United States to hold that geopolitical position.
Interesting.
I'm agreeing with Ace. I think that strategically it's very beneficial to the United States. I also, I suppose, my goodness, I feel like I don't know enough about this conflict to make this statement, so I'm going to skip that one. It is also largely adult soldiers killing adult soldiers, which bad, awful. I hate all kinds of war, but in scenarios where it is, combatants being killed versus mass civilian death, it benefits us, and it keeps Ukraine from being colonized and brought back into the USSR.
I'm a big proponent of just war theory, and I think that there has been, at least the United States should be funding wars and these types of things if it fulfills just war theory, if we see it make it so there's proportionality. Not only that, but if it is important to U.S. assets to maintaining world order, so then hopefully we can stop stuff like China, countries like China, from spreading out across the world.
Oh yeah, fund the shit out of them. Let's fucking fund Ukraine. Let's do it. Russia's not our friend, and we make bombs. Let's sell them.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't see Ukraine as some great
Charlie, you're muted.
ally. Oh yeah, she knows she's probably.
Yeah, I'm muted on. Sorry, I'm talking to my chat right now.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't see Ukraine as some great ally. I see them kind of corrupt. I don't like Russia. They're not our friend. So if they want to fight each other, let them fight. And if Trump wants to make the peace deal, let him try. But if not, let's fucking fund them and make some money off it at least. I mean, that sounds crass, but that's what we do. We sell arms. That's what America is. You see a guy out on the 4th of July, he's got a bunch of fireworks, he's shooting guns, he's lifting weights. That's America. I don't know why we're pretending that's not.
I would say that now listen, I'm fairly pro-gun myself, but it's only because America is a nation with a lot of guns, and I think that everyone should be, if everyone's armed, you should all have the right to have arms. But I think that arms. I think that generally
no, these are guns. Just FYI.
These are guns.
These are
all right.
Those guns.
Right.
Welcome to the gun show.
Probably that's not, deaths from guns are pretty significant in the US, which is not good. I don't know how we could see that as a positive. I don't think that more countries should, have their schools shot up. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Statistics, I feel like, aren't too bad in America, especially if you compare it to somewhere like South Africa that has 7 times the murder rate in America.
That sounds like a different panel, but I don't want to compare the U.S. to South Africa.
Yeah.
But in any case, I feel like I was disagreeing with much of Ace's reasoning, but now that we've actually got Ukraine to sign the mineral deal, and we have actually a vested interest in Ukraine finally, I am much more on board with funding and increasing funding to Ukraine. And so it's good that Zelensky found that it was in his best interest to do so and decided to obviously fund Ukraine and our vested interest versus just the moral good of the country being invaded. And I think that it's good that Zelensky saw common sense, and even though he got a little heated at the meeting, he finally came around, and I think that's awesome.
Okay. Well, we might be at a wall here for that. Does anyone else have any thoughts? This might be an early day. On USAID funding in general, foreign intervention, anything like that. Any
I
other
mean,
topics you think we
what
haven't
happens? I guess this would
Go ahead.
perhaps less. I don't even know if this would be appropriate, but this is kind of actually what I wanted to talk about. What does it look like when the U.S. loses its soft power? Like, what happens to us? You know, not to be.
Not good things.
I
know.
know.
If I may interject here. This is why I wanted to actually debate you sometime, Charlie, and we'll set up a date for this on American Empire, because I think that when Pax Americana ceases to be a thing, you're going to want Pax Americana back really quick.
I might, and that's why I would love to have that conversation. I would love to have that conversation with the Wick, because, you know, while I have strong feelings I hate American imperialism, and I think Pax Americana has been, you know, disastrous across the globe in many ways. I do also have that concerns. Well, what happens to me? What happens to me and my loved ones when that is no longer a thing?
Yeah, I'll answer your question. So what? Well, there's a few possibilities. Okay. So first of all, I acknowledge that a lot of the things that America has done in the past have been horrific, not good.
Yeah.
I condemn. Right. I disavow. However, a lot of the things that we have done have been good. Like, I think that we saved millions from a fate worse than death in South Korea, right? Our intervention there stopped something very, very dark from covering an entire nation, right? And we weren't entirely successful, but we held them as much as we could. I think that, again, our intervention in World War II, again, really, really stopped a
very
dark
vital
timeline.
Very vital.
And here's the thing. Like, in Bosnia and Serbia, for example, we stopped some bad shit from going down. We all bring up the greatest hits, the Vietnams, right? The Afghanistans, Iraqs, the second Iraq. Because, again, the first Iraq was good. Saving Kuwait was a good thing, and we should do that, and I would do that again. But this is the thing. Like, as bad as America can sometimes be, a multipolar world would be significantly worse. First of all, nuclear proliferation would increase astronomically. Every country that doesn't have nukes will get nukes because they can no longer rely on America's defensive umbrella, to protect them. They will need, and I think Ukraine is learning this now, who gave up its nukes, that if you give up your nukes, you're going to get fucked by a bigger power. They're going to come in and they're going to take a bite, right? Or swallow you whole. So suddenly we have many more nations, none of which are as beholden or in an alliance with each other as much as NATO has been and the American hegemony has been. And so you increase the chance astronomically of a nuclear exchange. India and Pakistan, right? Look at them. There's always a knife edge there, and they've been that's bad.
That's a very long beef as well.
True. But this extends. Like Japan. Japan gets nukes because China's edging in on them, right? Like, I think a lot of other smaller countries get just swallowed. Taiwan, gone, right? Without an American hegemony. The perhaps worse fate than that is the rise of a new unipolar world under the hand of China.
What would that look like, though? Actually,
do you know what the Uyghur? Are you aware of what they're doing?
Yeah. Yes.
Imagine that across the globe.
China's very much similar to Nazi Germany in that they are a state-run economy. Like all the companies are basically run by the state, as well as they have a ethno-nationalist tinge to them, where they heavily favor the Han Chinese among anyone else, internally.
I would probably identify myself as a Marxist, so the first one is not really that bad for me. I think that's actually kind of better.
We talked to someone who was in a Marxist cult yesterday, and we got him out. Right?
I watched that. I watched that.
Did you like that show? Yeah.
It was interesting. I tuned in for a little bit. However, second part, obviously not good. However, I think we could argue that what the U.S. does to its own people is also pretty significantly very bad. However, I think that would maybe be a better like one-on-one conversation.
Yeah,
with
we'll
Wick.
talk. We'll
I
talk
think
about
it's
that.
funny
But
that
I'm sorry to.
a lot of people forget
Well,
that
yeah, but-
National Socialists were also socialists.
Oh,
They were just
really?
national ones.
Yeah,
Well,
okay,
that's
hold
good.
on.
It's not
Stop,
really
stop,
a wonder
stop.
that you
That's
agree with half of
debatable,
what they
Stop.
thought.
Me and Charlie,
Okay.
we'll talk.
That's what they called
I'll
themselves.
DM you and we'll set up a time. But I want to give it to Ace. He had something to say, and Ace.
Yeah,
and I
I
know
want to say
Gibbs
we
wanted to say
talk
something
about U.S. interventionism. I have a very complicated take on it. Just because a little bit of background. I agree with Wick. I think me and Wick are very similar in this. My father's from Baghdad, Iraq. Like he was,
Ooh.
yeah. So think
Ooh.
about that. And then my mom's from Bosnia.
Oh,
So it's kind yeah.
so we mama. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit of a weird balance where the U.S. did the second Iraq to Iraq, but they also enforced the no-fly zone over Bosnia and that kind of. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of
fucked one side.
More wide-reaching across the world. Then hopefully me as an individual and those around me can help make sure that that's good instead of bad.
Okay. No, that is completely fair. I also think you do have a very unique perspective there. And I think like you should interview both your parents sometime.
on stream, so we can watch. Yeah.
Yeah, on a stream, you should interview them both because that would be extremely interesting. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a positive way.
I would watch that.
I'll let you go in a second, Tosh. $5 from Audacity, and sorry I disconnected there for a minute. I don't know what happened. $5 from Audacity. Say, Jamie, pull out that one documentary about Chinese businesses in Africa. I think it's called Empire of Dust. Thank you for the $5. $5 more from Crash Out or Cash Out to say the whole research and development cut was based on too much money going to overhead and not the research itself. Go teach yourself, bed hair guy. LOL. Crash Out or Cash Out. If you want to debate bed hair guy or Ace as he calls himself sometime, we can absolutely set that up. $5 more from Old School to say Ukraine didn't give up their nuclear weapons. They gave up paperweights in nuclear weapons form. They didn't have the codes. I hate this myth. Thank you for the $5. There were workarounds. They could find the codes. They were at least a better, like, there's a reason we had to make promises to them.
It's too expensive for them to maintain it, which is, to my understanding, the largest reason why they got rid of them.
They could have sold them, is the question. Like, is the thing, right? Is the reason we wanted to get in there. But
I should have given them away at a better guarantee, I guess.
I guess, man, we kind of just.
I want to ask
ahead,
something.
Gibbs, please.
Yeah. So first, yes, Nazis are absolutely worse socialists. We can look at Strasser. We can look at Goebbels. We can Dr. Goebbels. We can look at Dr. Strasser. We can look at Hess, and we can look at Hitler. We can see their ideology and their works act all the way through, and it's absolutely socialist. Y'all can debate that, but I'm sorry, that's the most successful socialist country since, except maybe China or Juche under North Korea. Secondly. I also want Pax Americana to continue, and I'm a big fan of it. However, what's crazy to me here is we've been sitting here circling this, right? And Tosh and I think, have put forth something relatively pretty reasonable, right? We've said we want to look at what's going on, and we want to do this. All right, Ace, how do you justify to me, without sitting here looking at what we have already currently gotten going, hey, okay, this is the spreadsheet. This is where the money's going. Let's see if it's been successful. What is our metrics for success? Whether it's instability like Charlie's alleging, or whether it's actually to go to the country. We can sit there. We can find a metric and go, hey, this is successful. This wasn't. How do we not sit here and do that before you go, okay, let's carte blanche increase spending? Or whenever we could just maybe X out some of these areas, keep the same amount of spending, but do it more effectively. Why is your answer, hey, you know what, let's just take more tax dollars and burn it?
Okay, so first off, you said burn it. This has been uncontested. I have talked about how every dollar in foreign aid in the current status quo results in an increase of $8.
It has been contested. We've asked how that's come back, and your argument was, oh, maybe possibly a think tank about how to build a well. Like, that doesn't.
Other countries, So if other countries are doing well, and if other countries like the United States, they're more likely to buy American goods. It's that simple.
But then that's counter to Charlie's point that it hurts them economically, and
Sure,
especially
me and
their
Charlie are.
economy.
I don't know exactly which point you're talking about, but me and Charlie aren't the same
Let me
person.
show you this. Let me show you what
Yeah.
you are.
We are
Yeah, I'm
different.
just
We look
pointing out
similar, I
that
guess.
you guys
This is
disagree.
true. I
I was
can't.
Both,
literally
like,
It's hard to
pointing
tell
out a
them
point
apart,
of contention
honestly.
between your sides.
Yeah,
This
we're
is
like
Ace's
twins,
argument.
basically.
This is Ace's argument in reality. He's going, hey, we should take American dollars and just burn it. That's what he thinks is going to be a better system.
If
Because
burning means make $8 from one, yeah.
You've said here, you repeatedly said this over and over, and that's great and arguable. I still don't even know if that's true. I don't believe it. And secondly, you haven't established how this
You
money
could have done
coming
research
back.
before the debate.
It sounds like it's corruption, is what it sounds like. We're spending money on NGOs. It's coming back in some collusive vest, and some think tank is seeing this money, and nobody else is getting this money. You can argue this, but we're not seeing any tangible benefits. I could have done the research. I did do the research, and you all right. Listen, you've argued this thing. You have not argued it once. We want to talk about not being ready. We can talk about how you haven't talked about anything with Rwanda where they replaced the contracts we already had.
That was good.
Oh, that was good. So then you agree with my point that we should use more spending for more hard power and replacing U.S. military power in some
No,
cases.
we should.
And having
What
countries
was
locally
Rwanda? We were talking about how aid going towards Rwanda was good.
So then you agree that we should do it effectively and we should gut the programs that aren't being used. Oh,
but
good. So you
what
agree
means,
with gutting them.
wait. What means? No, I don't agree with gutting it. What means effectively? I told you we get $8 for every dollar. I explained how we get that, and you say it's burning. If that's burning, then I don't. What's that burning?
If it goes back, if we get $8 back and like $7 of that dollar goes to fucking, I don't know, John Kerry's retirement fund or his investments or funded by
where did that come from? You're just assuming things. These are assumed arguments with no evidence.
We've seen these repeatedly with USA where we have the money come back and we go, wait, why is it going to this NGO? Why is it going there? Why is that NGO spending money over here and coming back into the US? You just yourself admitted the money is coming back into the US, and we're going, it's going to some think tank.
I told you the money is coming back into the United States. I told you, Gibbs, you didn't hear like the actual full thing. Every dollar invested in foreign aid results in $8 increase in U.S. exports. Because once again, when other countries are doing well and they like the U.S., they buy U.S. goods. Gibbs, you can burn your own money.
Could I shift the conversation a little bit?
You're
I'm not burning your money. I told you how much money we get back on it. That would be an amazing stock. If I could invest $1 in the stock and get $8 back, that'd be great.
So you agree though with Afghanistan being a complete and utter waste of American taxpayer dollars after
Afghanistan was a waste of taxpayer dollars because we sent our military to try to hold a region that it did not work in, while China is doing the same thing across Africa and the Middle East and doing so without ever firing a bullet.
Oh, well, that's not totally true because I just posted articles showing that they're building bases in Equatorial Guinea and have plans to build bases across Africa now. So,
what kind of bases?
Military bases. Exactly. And logistical. So exactly the kind of thing that you would put, next to the thing I said earlier, an oil field. If you're going to try to protect it from, I don't know, freedom fighters in the Middle East.
But they haven't done that.
They haven't done that yet, but they have done it in Equatorial Guinea. So that indicates they're going to keep doing it wherever they have economic ties.
How does that indicate that they're going to keep doing it anywhere they are?
Because the DOD has already uncovered plans and released them. I posted links.
Could you send them?
I posted them in the fucking chat.
You did it like kind of silently. I didn't see any of this.
I brought it up. I brought it up earlier.
That the DOD released articles?
I posted 2 different articles, one from Asian News Network, one's from William and Mary, and they both are sitting there covering the DOD saying that China's using these bases that they're building in these regions.
Is China bombing the fuck out of the Middle East?
Not yet. Do they have military bases there protecting their oil wells?
No, not in the Middle East. You're giving me one base while the U.S. has like 800 in foreign countries, and the U.S. has continued to bomb the Middle East.
This goes to Tosh's point that they're using Belt and Road as a setup to build later the bases.
Okay, so you have one example to 800. I don't get.
Can I shift the conversation a little bit domestically?
Well, let's give Charlie the chance. She had something to say just there, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up because it is.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I spaced out mildly, but what does China's plan to use soft power to expand their global military influence? How does that mean that we should decrease funding to USAID? Like, what is the impact on that argument? Wouldn't we want to increase funding then so that China does not have military bases across the globe?
I'm so glad you asked, Charlie. I and Tosh have both argued we should spend money more effectively. And if they, in my argument earlier, this is why I said if let them waste the money. If
What
they
does
want to give
effectively
it,
mean to you?
hold on, if they want to spend their money in Iraq protecting oil fields while it's a hot zone, or say build them in Syria, that's going to end up wasting the money, and it's going to become the death by
Okay,
1,000.
so what happens when my god, I'm going to sound like a fucking moron. So please forgive me. My brain is soup.
Okay,
Is the American dollar not what we trade oil in across the globe? Right? Like oil is traded in the American dollar. Okay, so what
Under
happens
Biden
when
more recently, it's kind of shifted, especially with BRICS trying to set up a competitive
Yeah,
like
it's shifting, but currently
thing
it's
to the
US dollar.
dollar.
Okay, so
Yeah,
what
it's
happens
shifting.
when a country like the US that depends upon oil so extremely um what happens when, it is traded in the Chinese yuan, yuan, I don't know how to say it. Like what
The yen?
would this not be bad for us?
The won?
I don't know how to fucking say the Chinese currency. I'm so sorry. I read more than I hear.
No,
I hear you.
I'm the same on pronunciations, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's gonna word grammar you here. I don't think.
So why would we want, again, why would we want China to have those bases in the Middle East versus us having those bases? It benefits us to, be in control of that oil, to have oil traded in our currency.
We agree with you largely. I think we just disagree about the method to go about that.
So I want to say my whole claim is I want to increase to the 0.7 benchmark. Currently we're 0.24, right? That 0.24 that we're currently investing, as I stated, you say it's not efficient or it's not effective. I told you the return we get on it. That's a great exchange in my opinion, right? Any more that we invest, we can invest that in infrastructure across the region. And as Charlie said, if we increase spending and if we increase infrastructure across the region, then China isn't doing that. And if China isn't doing that, if you don't want Chinese military bases, the best way to do that is not let China put the Belt and Road there. But we've been letting China put the Belt and Road there since 2013, while we've been pissing time and money in Afghanistan trying to hold it militarily and failed.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, yeah, we've had a fun one. I think we've kind of circled the drain. We've kind of hit a wall here. And rather than subject you to just useless banter, let's end the show. First of all, if you've enjoyed this show, if you've liked the content, hit that like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch or on Kick, hit that follow button. It really does help me out. Second of all, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, so a little later than normal, me and Ryan Mullally will be going on to PF Young's show. I'll be streaming it here too, so tune in, right? To talk about the woke right and if it is real. And we're going to absolutely have a discussion, and it will be fun and it will be interesting, so tune in then. Next week's going to be a full show. We got a great lineup. Also, a buddy of the show, a friend of the show, is going to be going on Tim Pool on Friday. I helped set that up. I'll let them announce it, right? But just keep in mind that announcement's coming up. So you might want to tune in at least for that. So check it out. Okay. With that, I'm going to give each of these lovely individuals a chance to have a closing statement and shout themselves out, tell you where they can find them, all that. And we're going to start with Tosh, and we're going to let Ace have the last word. So Tosh, go ahead.
You can find me on Twitter, I guess. I don't really produce much content, but I had a great conversation and hope to maybe continue the conversation elsewhere or even afterwards. And just thanks for having me on, Wick. You've been a gracious host.
Okay, thanks for being here. Check them out, gang. $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out. Thank you for the $5 at the end. Say the $8 return goes to the NGO companies that are established, not the American government, still funding the rich. It goes to exports. They buy $8 of our goods, so difference. But thank you for the $5. Charlie, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Enemy Charlie everywhere, but I'm most often on Twitch. Today I'm on Kick though. Just because the time I usually stream late. I had fun. Thank you for having me on, Wick. Sorry if I was not much of a debate warrior today. I want to say though, Ace, you did fucking fantastic. You seem very young, so if I call you a smart kid, please don't take that in a condescending way. But you seem very bright.
Thank
You seem
you.
early 20s. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was good job, and thank you everyone.
No, thanks for being here. Next up we have, and check her out, gang. She does some great content. Big Naturals Gandalf is coming up, so you won't want to miss that.
No, I already did it.
Oh, you already did it. We missed it. Oh no.
Already happened.
Okay.
No,
well,
I'm gonna redo it. Because I have a friend who is a tailor who saw what I did and he said, "No, we're making you a real one. We're making you a full-blown Big Naturals Gandalf cosplay."
Okay, well, let us know because we are very interested in that. Gibbs, go ahead.
Yeah, so while we've been sitting here, I have decided that I am going to open up an NGO, and I've applied for funding from the State Department to enact what I've titled the Enemy Charlie Plan in Vietnam, and that is going to be sell fentanyl from Vietnam into China. That is going to be my. It's
Well-
now proposed. It is now proposed. We will be posting a Kickstarter and a some sort of what's it called? Where they do the signing, a petition somewhere, so we can get the government to sign off on it sometime later this week. Look forward to it. Totally kidding.
Oh man.
Yeah, you can find me as Admiral Gibbs here tonight at 7:30. We'll be doing our women's panel. We got a bunch of new women coming on. It's going to be exciting. Always fun stuff. Also, Ace, you did do very good. It was very fun debating with you today. And the rest of y'all, always good times. Thanks for having me, Whit.
Okay, no, thanks. And tune in for Gibbs' Big Naturals Fentanyl show. We're also
Yes.
very excited for that. Check it out. And last but
Sponsored
certainly
by-
not least, first time on my show, hopefully not last. Hopefully he enjoyed it. Ace, go ahead.
I want to thank all of you for making me feel really welcome. And I don't have a lot of social medias. I have a Twitter that I don't use very often. I think it's like linked somewhere. I hope to be back. I found it a lot of fun. Speech and debate is kind of my life. It's what I love and thrive to do. So the only shout out I want to give is my college debate coach, Scott Wells. I love that guy. Scott Debate Wells is the GOAT. And also to the high school students that I help coach. They're going to do great. So I hope they're watching. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. I hope to be back, and I hope to have some great conversations in the future.
Okay, just FYI, my show's not for minors, so if you're a child, don't watch my show. Okay, FYI.
They're not. They're in high school. I help coach high schoolers, so I think they're like. How old do you have to be on Twitch? Is it like 13?
Well, I don't know about Twitch, but for my show, we like 18 and up. Okay, because sometimes we get a little.
I think they could watch this one maybe.
This one's fine, but I don't want them tuning
This
into
one's fine.
to when we have Big Naturals Wick, okay?
Yeah.
And they pay me $50
Okay,
to
yeah.
take my shirt
Yeah,
off
this is
and
like when-
dance.
This is
and
the,
stuff.
when the parents, when you're growing
Yeah.
up, they let you watch the one episode of Seinfeld after the news,
I guess so.
The
I
shirtless
guess so.
streams are a
Anyway,
little too much for them.
anyway, we're gonna rate out. Are you gonna stream after this, Admiral Gibbs?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Gibbs. We'll raid on to Admiral Gibbs. Let him know this is a hate raid, and I will see you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check us out. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.